I'm all about building relationships. I'm not here to build transactions. I'm here to build relationships. And that transcends in my personal into my business life. I was tired of being tired, living check to mouth. The change had to begin with me, not others. It began with me. And I had enough. And ego was enormous on that scarcity mindset. I wanted to do things my way. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do it my way. And my way is not the right way. I had to change myself. I followed particular models of successful agents and teams. I'm not going to recreate the wheel. I'm going to tweak it to how I want it, but I'm following a model of already successful people in the industry and just mirroring that and doing my own tweaks to make it mine.
You're listening to the #1 real estate podcast in the world, where we talk with real estate professionals all across North America about their wins, losses, lessons, and stories, helping you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined with Vikram Deol of the Real Estate Sales Academy. Vikram Deol, what's happening? How are you doing? You're still in Medellin. I'm in Canada. You know, we're apart.
You didn't even give the name of the RA Agent podcast, the #1 real estate agent show in the world.
Maybe I didn't, but maybe I did. We'll have to rewind it back and figure out whether I did or not.
I don't think you did. I mean, we're going on number 4 or something, so I don't remember what's going on in it, but I don't think you did.
We chatted with a lot of great guests so far, and we have another great guest today. But before we intro the guest, tell me, like, what's happening in your life? What's happening in your life? What, how's dating life in Medellin? These are all things that people want to know.
Man, I went out with a gorgeous woman yesterday. Oh my God. Like, I am smitten over this girl. My life is extraordinarily complicated to most and just ever so simple to me. My dating life is I'm dating a few people, open about what's going on. So I'm not like, I'm doing it the right way instead of the old big way, which was just do whatever and don't care. So I've been very open with the ladies about what's going on, but went out last week and my friend met these group of girls, and one of them was just like, oh my God, she was wearing these boots and like shorts, and I was just like smitten over her. And anyway, they were at the big party. I got her phone number, and the next day I just texted her, and she's like, I'm really happy you texted me. We talked for like a couple minutes at the club. So I'm really glad you texted me. I was like, hoping we could have talked a little bit more that night. Anyways, a couple days go by, we planned a date, and yesterday we went out and had an amazing time. Like, just went to this really beautiful rooftop, super cool, like great service, great views, and she is super cool. Like, she's an entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur for a long time, and I feel like I texted Cody. I texted you last night, Cody, and I'm like, I pulled a Cody. I fell in love with the first day I fell in love. If you guys don't know Cody, every time he meets a beautiful Latina, he's like, bro, I'm going to marry this girl. I'm going to marry this girl. And so I've heard that like 19 times. So I don't know if Cody actually got 19 wives or not, but I pulled a Cody last night and I'm like, I'm going to marry this girl.
I don't think I do, but Medellin is beautiful, my friend. I'm thinking of heading back to Bogota here shortly. Who knows where life will take me. But what's good in business? Like, what's happening in business right now?
I was wondering what's taking you to Bogota.
Oh, we were chatting about dating life, so we'll see what happens there. Who knows?
Is there a special lady there possibly, Cody?
There's a special person. Yeah, good. Yeah, there's we'll leave it at that.
All right, that's a very very interesting. All right,
yeah.
Business is great, dude. Like, I started to build my sales team with this new offer for the Real Estate Sales Academy. So I started building the sales team, and in the process of doing that, we had a couple of what would be considered like ISAs, inside salespeople, appointment setters, and I really realized like my lack of leadership and process, and I really set them up for failure, which is unfortunate because it's our job to set them up. But in the process of doing that, I became a better leader, and I had to create better processes and systems for the people coming in. And what all that does is it puts me back in the trenches, calling real estate agents, making conversations, booking appointments, seeing like why people are showing or not showing, like what their objections are, because all those things help us build a better sales process. So
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
what's greatly here's what I would say to anybody out there. If your sales process isn't generating the results you want, it's not the leads 90% of the time. It's what we are saying that's causing the lead or the prospect to either move forward or not move forward. It's the way we say it, it's what we're saying, it's the questions we're asking. So just, go through your process and just dissect it like one piece at a time. So like the intro or the close or where do you build emotion at, right? Where do you build trust at? Or what's on the back end? Like, how are you booking the appointment? Like, are the messages that you're sending out, are they generic, out of the box? Like, oh my God, I'm so excited to meet you, which lowers your frame in the prospect's eyes, or is it eye to eye, peer to peer? Like, just you got to go through these processes if you want to build a better, company. So
we have a very special guest with us today. Somebody that is chilling out in the airport on his way. I think Kansas is what he said. Kansas, not in Kansas anymore, but we have somebody who very, very special today. Vikram, I know that you mentioned that you did the project together. Why don't you intro our guest today?
So Mark was my battle buddy during the project, and Mark, for those of you guys who do not know Mark is like 6'6". He is like beyond strong, and he's like not the type of guy you need to talk shit to under a very stressful situation where we are already in a very, very violent organization, it felt like. And Mark and I were battle buddies just due to our height, right? That's how you get paired up with your battle buddy. And during the project, like, it's really funny because Mark probably saw a side of me that is totally different than who I am now. And I saw a side of Mark that's completely opposite of who he is as a leader. But it was really cool, like, that we got to bond. We completed the project together. It was my second time going through, Mark's first time going through. And Mark's a kick-ass team leader. He's a badass agent in the Long Beach area. He's a family-oriented man. That's why he's actually going to Kansas to boot up his number one, which is his son. His number one's his son. His number two is his pup. Like, he's crushing the social game. He's crushing the listing game. Mark, do us a favor. Like, give us maybe like a 30-second to 1 minute high-level overview of just like who you are, what you stand for, like some core values, and then we're going to jump into kind of some leadership and where you're getting all these millions of listings from.
Number one is I'm a father. I'm heading out right now to Kansas to see my son graduate. I'm excited for that. And just an overview, I'm a student. I'm learning every single day. Every single day. I came from a scarcity mindset and cultivating an abundance mindset. And I believe that's where I'm at right now.
So man, I guess we're gonna have to jump into this a little bit more. I believe a lot of real estate agents, the way the industry is set up is that it's actually set up for failure. This is an industry which is set up for membership dues, not for membership success, which is, it's something that has frustrated me since the day I got into real estate. Like, 120 hours, you can be a licensed real estate agent doing one of the most difficult transactions with one of the highest dollar values. And your esthetician needs more time training than you do as a real estate agent. It's insane. So how do you go from, first off, what's your definition of scarcity? What's your definition of abundance?
Scarcity mindset to me is mine, me. And I used to, for instance, look at put a transaction together, but with put a deal together. I should say is the right word. Put a deal together and not get the repeat business. I was very transactional because I was so dependent on the outcome. So I was just looking at that. Okay, I'm going to make 10,000 here. I'm going to make 15,000. Total scarcity mindset. And I was very transactional, all new business, no repeat business.
What does abundant mindset in life and real estate mean to you now?
In life, I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm not attached to it. I'm not attached to the outcome. And I'm all about building relationships. I'm not here to build transactions. I'm here to build relationships. And that transcends in my personal into my business life.
You said at one point you were transactional though, and something shifted and something changed. And I think that a lot of people could learn a lot from that transition, because I think a lot of agents, especially in this market, are in the transactional mindset of the now, where they can't get past the next 3 months because they've had a bad last 3 months. In order to, like, it's often hard to create an abundant mindset when you're not in an abundant place mentally. How did you transition, and was there a life event that transitioned you from scarcity to abundant? Can you walk us through how you were able to do that for yourself?
I was tired of being tired. I was just tired of living check to mouth, and something had to change. I had commission breath, as they say in our business. I had straight commission breath, living check to mouth. And I had enough of it. The change had to begin with me, not others. It began with me, and I had enough. I had enough, and that's basically it. I had enough.
In the market we're in, and like when when we were going through the project, and Ray and I were talking, and he goes, Mark's a phenomenal entrepreneur, Vic. He's like, you are like, this is because I had already been through the project. So there were certain things that I had already been kind of exposed to. So Ray and I were chatting, and I was like, tell me a little bit about Mark. And he's like, he was just telling me about you. And he's like, he's a phenomenal entrepreneur, phenomenal leader, phenomenal salesperson. When you came into the industry and you had this mindset around check to check, right? And a lot of it, I think, we were talking with our last guest on our last show. A lot of it in my world, I think that we have these huge egos, and these egos, we have to feed the ego. And one of the ways we feed the ego is it's easier to call a new person than it is to go back to the old person that we've already transacted with, because we feel like that's easy prey. Like, we've already been there, done that. I don't know if that resonates with you, but like, as you shifted from a scarcity to an abundant mindset, how did that affect you personally? Like, how did your life change when you started seeing the world differently? And then how did that change your business?
All right, I'm going to begin. You touch on something. Ego was enormous on that scarcity mindset. And I wanted to do things my way and not follow any models. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do it my way. And I realized that my way is not the right way. And as I said, I had to change myself. I followed particular models of successful agents and successful teams. I'm not going to recreate the wheel. I'm going to follow that model. I'm going to tweak it to how I want it. And I'm still tweaking that wheel, but I'm following a model of already successful people in the industry and just mirroring that and doing my own tweaks to make it mine.
I think that there's so much value in the idea of that's like, in the beginning, it's all about mirroring. It's all about finding somebody that's already been where you want to go, and then like figuring out how do I copy that? That's the whole idea of this podcast. Like, anyone listening back to the replay, like, please get that. That's the whole reason we created this podcast, was to really help you win in your local market today. People are already doing the things, already creating the success. It's like modeling them and finding different ways to kind of implement that is so important. Now, when you think back to the moment where you began to shift and kind of drop the ego and say, hey, I'm gonna model somebody. What were you looking for in a mentor, or what were you looking for in a model because there's so many different ways to do things. Like, we were literally chatting on the last podcast that everything works. It just all takes time, skill, and volume. How did you know what your next right thing was that allowed you to kind of create the longevity you've created in business now, and kind of even shift the perspective? Like, what were you looking for, or what did you find in those moments?
Okay. I was an individual agent. I'm going to tell you how this happened. I was an individual agent. I was working with my girlfriend. She was a manager of the office, and I had an office. I was an agent, and we broke up, and she kicked me out of the office. That point, yes, it was devastating. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? It was the best fucking thing that ever happened to me. That was the best thing. Hitting rock bottom like that was the best thing ever happened to me, because I went into another office, was just the mindset was just growth, 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 and abundance. And then one thing led to another book led to another led to a mentor, it just led me from one thing to another. If she never broke up with me and I hit rock bottom, I don't know if I would have experienced. I think it was destined for me, but I don't know if I wouldn't have did it at that time. So I thank her for it.
Yeah, man, that's sometimes our biggest gifts come packaged in very painful envelopes. And so thank you for the vulnerability and sharing that. I want to ask you a question before we switch gears. Why would a man that's successful, right? Why would somebody who's got a good head on his shoulders, why would you go and want to do something like the project? Because I think you're our first project buddy on. So I'm just curious, like, why would you want to go do 75 hours of insanity with, a bunch of other dudes when you're already super successful, running a great business, being mentored by great coaches? Like, why change?
Because I had no control. And giving control to someone else, as I had to work on it. And I know I had some blind spots. And Vic, you were there. You saw when I didn't have control, I was like, running into walls, forgetting my sweater, yeah.
Size 13 shoes, and they disappeared in the middle of a parking lot. I loved it, bro. It was amazing.
Can I give you a real quick story? We had we did an evolution. We came back. We're supposed to put our sweaters on. I lost mine, so I'm like, please don't look at me, please. And I'm the only one without a sweater. Vic, I don't know if you remember that.
Oh,
but
I remember. It was freezing.
No.
It was freezing.
Yeah, I had no sweater. Yep. Absolutely. So just really going to the project, giving up control, and everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. And I try to, and I still look back and I still work on it, is like, not controlling everything, not controlling the person I date, not controlling my son, not controlling, giving up control. And I really feel my growth has even went up more so when I give up control.
So let's take that, because I do remember that's one of the things that I love about the project is that we get to give people real feedback in real time. And it was aggressive, like, because it's high emotions and stress. And you, as you started letting go of control towards the end, and we all started working as a better team, we all started to communicate better, and we grew so much in that process. How has doing the project, right, and learning to let go of control, like seeing your blind spots, what has that done for your business as you came out? Because, well, let me just give a little context why I'm asking this question. In the green room, you said that when you started your team, you were a horrible leader, and that being a great salesperson and being a great sales leader or a great team leader are completely two different skills, and you had botched the leadership part because you didn't have systems, processes, etc. How has coming out of the project, and this isn't a pitch for the project, but how has coming out of that for you helped you become a better entrepreneur with letting go of control, like especially in this market?
That I don't know everything, and it always doesn't have to be my way. And getting someone else's opinion, you know what I love more than anything? I've been in the business over 20 years. I love getting the nuances from from the millennials, or they have just different innovative ideas. And I love that. And that is my growth. I want to learn. My thirst for growth and getting better is astronomical. And I don't have the answers, and I understand I don't have the answers for anything, but my growth has really opened me up, actually completing the project and giving up that control and not being attached to the outcome, as I said many times, has just really exponentially increased my growth.
I want to shift gears here a little bit, because as we were talking in the green room, you had mentioned that obviously there were key, like as we were talking, there's been key moments that have allowed you to get to where you are today. But you mentioned something unique that I think from a tactical standpoint, I think people would be dying to learn about. You mentioned that you're doing about 12 to 15 listings a month, and that's kind of how you're getting a lot of your business. Like, what are you doing in order to acquire those listings? And how do you think an agent in their market could apply something similar to what you're doing in order to acquire that type of business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I was a transactional agent, just looking at that transaction right in front of me and having commission breath, I gave poor communication skills. I over communicate. So when that so-called tough question comes up about a price adjustment, who wants to lower their listing? They think the world of it. They think it's the best thing ever. But with me over communicating it, it's a moot point. It's like I lead them to it. Okay. I lead them to it. And sometimes they're the ones that bring it up. Hey, do you think we need to adjust the price? Well, absolutely. Because my communication has really come to the next level. And pretty much right now, majority of 95% of all my business is all repeat business. And it was the reverse before. And it's just the communication. I over communicate.
What, like, can we break apart what over communicate looks like? Because it's like for us at Sheridan Street, like I say to our clients all the time, and I say to our team all the time, like one of our values is over communication with clients and each other. So I share that ether. That's a value that's literally in our vivid vision. What does effective communication look like in a listing presentation or in between an agent and a seller? Like, obviously there's of course things like there's like, oh, of course you should chat with them about the pricing. Of course you should do these things. But like, what are some of the things that over time you've added into your communication that's allowed you to get the repeat referral business?
I actually communicate every day with all my clients, every day, 10, 13, 15 listings every single day, even if it's not only Saturday, Sunday, if it's necessary, but Monday through Friday, if they get a communication from me or my assistant every single day. Even if it's the same thing said yesterday, it's going to be said again. I just over communicate. And the response I get, because I ask my clients, I ask them, how can I serve you better? How can I do better for you? And the same reply is, keep on over communicating, even if it's the same thing. I treat the big thing, gentlemen, and I want to say this to you, is I treat their listings like my listing, like if I owned it. And that's how I treat it.
So you had mentioned like you treat like the over communication, it's either you or it is your admin that is kind of like following up with the prospect or following up with the client in order to get them the information they're looking for. When you say you're over communicating, like how are you communicating? Because I think a lot of people struggle like with figuring out, okay, like if it's the same thing I say over and over again, is there something you are saying in the beginning that like, is that a value you hold where you communicate in the beginning that, hey, I'm going to communicate with you daily. Like you should be looking for communication daily from us. Is that something you said on the forefront, or is this something that like comes through time? The other thing that I want to know is the feedback loop. Like how, like, are you having these in conversations? Are these forms that are going out to get feedback? Like how are you creating the consistent feedback loop between you and your clients?
Well, you know what? I good point right there. With for instance, it's an email that I send out daily, midday before I start doing all my my follow up through the phone, and it's just an email. My assistant sets a template. I just write in there from communicating, whoever sees a property, shows one of my listings. I want to know what that agent thinks. I want to know what their buyer thinks. I want to know why they did not make an offer. All that feedback goes right back to my seller. So they're abreast on everything. So I have showings every day on almost every property. So I do have some communication. I do have something to send my client every single day, Monday through Friday. And go ahead.
I gotta cut in here real quick. When you say you send your direct feedback to your client, are you basically cutting, pasting the exact verbatim feedback form? Or are you editing it? Like, are you sugarcoating it? Like, are you just being like, yo, this is exactly what they said?
Good question. Sometimes I do edit it. Sometimes I'm just cutting and pasting what I get back from the agent or buyer. Absolutely. Yes, I do edit it sometimes. Sometimes I do not.
Okay. Just depending on the client or whatever
You got it. You have to know your audience. And because if something is said like the obvious, just say your house is too small, it's da 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 da. Well, they already know that. I will edit it accordingly because you have to know your client.
Right.
You have to know your client. You just can't just send random stuff. You have to know your audience.
And I subscribe to for most people, because they don't have maybe the bandwidth of a system and structure and a team like you. They might not have enough support. I'm big on like, let your prospect know in the beginning, like let that listing prospect know like how you do things. Like, okay, are you going to communicate on Fridays, or are you going to be like, Mark, I'm going to hit you every day, Monday through Friday? Like, if you just set boundaries and parameters for people to follow, then they don't feel like they're in the dark. But if you don't follow, like, one of the things about listing agents is that, they don't have a process for communication. So it's like, well, I'll reach out to you when something happens. And the seller is in the dark. Like if 5 days goes by, like they feel emotionally wrecked. So you just have a process where you have the ability to do that. Do you feel like that your over communication ever hinders you? Like, does it ever bog you down? Because you carry what, like 15 listings at a time?
10 to 15 listings, but we have it all systemized. So it's simple. It's very, very, it doesn't take much of her time. But as I said, is before that email gets sent out, she preps it for me. I edit accordingly, then I send it out personally. So I exactly know, because if they come and give me a phone call, I want to know exactly what is being said, because I know my audience better than anyone on the team.
When you guys are grabbing feedback from other agents, how important is it as a listing agent for you to call every single agent that's been through your property, in your opinion? Like,
it's extremely important. It's extremely important to get that information back to your seller. And I'm going to, Vic, I'm going to say something real quick, and I don't mean to interrupt,
good, bro.
I have team members that just call expired listings. Do you know the biggest thing and the biggest gripe that the sellers have with their agent?
My agent disappeared the minute the sign went into the yard.
Boom. They only called me for a price adjustment. That was it. That's the only time I heard from the agent. Yeah. That was me before. That was me.
When you were calling, and I'm a firm believer that one of the reasons why we were able to come in and dominate our marketplace so quickly, so fast, was our communication style with the client, and the fact that we would get information. Now, when you have your team calling a buyer's agent, right? Like, what's a tactical couple of questions that you ask to actually get relative information from that person?
Well, first of all, I show gratitude. My assistant will call them. We're totally grateful you showed our property. And then she'll ask, what did you think of the property? What did your buyer think of your property? And then also, what would it take for your buyer, in your opinion, to make an offer? And I want to know what that is, because that's data. I need data. And that's data that I'm going to give my seller. I don't, the thing about me is, yes, listings do expire. Some listings don't sell. I have a really high track record of letting them, if they do expire, getting the listing back and then end up selling it. Maybe that wasn't the right time at that particular moment, but these are relationships. And this is how I treat it.
So let's go through this, because I think there's a lot of agents out there right now that get an opportunity or a shot at a listing, and then they win the listing, and then the buyer says, hey, I'm going to give you 30 days. The seller says, I'm going to give you 30 days. I'm going to give you a shot. And this is actually an example of somebody who took a listing a while ago, and he did end up selling it. But let's role play this for a second. Say, for example, an agent's out there right now, maybe they're newer, maybe they're a veteran, and they haven't really been heavy on the listing side, and they've been more heavy on the buy side. They get a listing, the listing expires. How can they continue to build a relationship with the seller and potentially create a relationship that allows them to get the listing again in the future. Because like you said, maybe it isn't the right time. Maybe they need to put it on the shelf for a couple months and come back to potentially selling it. How do you cultivate that relationship long term? And like, what does your post expire process look like?
Well, first of all, as we keep on saying, the communication, but also sometimes, I tell the seller what they really don't want to hear. Okay. And I do that, I do that to let them know I'm not just going to be a yes person. You have to be your own person and give them constructive criticism on the property. And I do that. And I find for me is if something does expire at the wrong time, as I said, I have like over 90% that I'm going to get that listing back because I'm going to still maintain the communication with them even after it expires. And I'll give them an update. And I come off in a way that is, I want to say genuine and not very salesy, that I'm just out to get their listing. I want to know, how are you? How is the family? It's the process of follow-up and continuing to follow up even after. I had one expire. That's 2 units. We got to, I told her, I'm the one that said, let's take it off the market. Let's get these tenants out. Once these tenants are out, we'll go ahead and put it back. I'll go ahead and put it back on the market. But in that span of time, it's been 3-4 months. I'm communicating with her every 3 weeks. How's it going? How's the eviction process? Just continually following up that I am all she knows about selling her property. I'm the person.
I think I caught something here, and I don't know if other people caught it. And Mark, you can tell me if this is part of the process of why you retain such a strong relationship, even when you tell somebody the absolute truth that most people aren't going to say, because most agents are order takers and they're not market makers. And when you are having this conversation and you're giving them this constant feedback, when you're in day-to-day communication with them, when the listing expires, they know that you have done a lot of stuff. They know that you've been proactive. They've seen your communication. They've experienced it. So they know that you're not fluffing them. But does it make it easier to have those difficult conversations with them? Because, nobody wants to have the conversation around price reductions, or expired listings or things like that. Do you think that has made it easier for you to stay in cadence and conversation with them because they know what the market has actually said instead of it being sugarcoated?
Oh, absolutely. As I keep, telling them something maybe that they don't want to hear or tough feedback. And that's why it's crucial for me to stay in communication with those agents that do show my property, because I need their feedback. I want their data because I want to share that data with my client. Yeah, absolutely.
It takes me back as we wrap up here. This takes me back to like when Steve and Ray and Bedros are yelling at us in the trenches and they're saying right, left, right. And you're, in mud or dirt, you're crawling at 2:00 in the morning and doing the project. It reminds me of them. Like they say this consistently. You need to communicate with your team. If you don't communicate with your team, you're all just running blind. And communication is not always like talking. Sometimes communication comes in different avenues. So I love that you over communicate. And I think that for most agents, if they were to do 1/3 of what you do, they would win a lot more deals. Mark, where do people find you? If somebody wants to send you, I know you're in Long Beach, but if somebody wants to send you a referral, or if somebody wants to chat with you about possibly joining your team or learning a little bit more about what makes you tick, where should people go and find you?
They can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Instagram. My Instagram handle, what is it? Mark at SoCal. I don't know. I got to look at it again. I don't know. That might go ahead and find it for me and plug me there.
It's Mark Perez SoCal.
Boom. I knew I was close.
Mark, yes. I want to say thank you, bottom of my heart, for just sharing so much wisdom and value with everyone today. I know there's going to be a ton of value. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast, the #1 real estate podcast in the world. We'll see you soon.